Hi, and welcome to Think, Engage, Thrive, our show on entrepreneurship, where we showcase some of the most inspiring and innovative entrepreneurs. If you ever thought about starting your own business, you should watch and listen. We're going to tell you the good, the bad, and the funny stories of startups. Tonight, we're thrilled to have with us Wesley Stevenson. Wes, thanks for being here with us tonight.
Thank you for having me, Phil.
Wes, you founded Expandacraft, but give us a bit of background into your entrepreneurial journey, because it seems like you're an inventor as well as an entrepreneur.
Yes, I mean the inventor thing is more in the later part of my life, but I've been an entrepreneur, dyed in the wool from age 8. My very first business, I sold 24 red wiggler worms for 50 cents. Wesley's Wigglers. Yeah. Yeah. And I had a distribution system where I went to Mr. Coffee's Esso station before it was Exxon, and the different Exxon stations and other places that carried my worms. The bait and tackle place carried my worms. I had an inexhaustible supply of something that cost me nothing that I could get money for. I like this. This is good.
I think that's funny.
Yeah, I was bit by the bug at 8.
Yeah, I think that's funny because most kids would have, probably just dug up the worms for themselves to go fishing, and here you are at 8 years old trying to figure out a distribution system for how to sell your worms.
I had a bicycle and a red wagon. I could drag those things all over.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Yeah. So then where did you go? You started out with selling worms. That couldn't have lasted forever.
Well, no, it was a pretty good thing for that. But then I got big enough to push a lawnmower, and making $10 a yard in 1970, whatever it was. I'm 58 now. And then I started doing that, and I said, hey, this is a pretty good side gig. And I was going to school, young man. This is before high school.
Sure.
And, this is good. And then I learned to tinker with bicycles, and I made mountain bikes. We called them BMX.
Yeah.
Before they existed, you couldn't go buy one from, the store, because you had to just buy parts and make it. And so I did that for my friends. I made a little money on the side doing that. It was always a side gig from school. I go to school, I come home, I get on a project, and I just would do a project. And it was always something I was building, tinkering with. And so I guess the plastic models that my father bought me, I have one of them actually over here. They got me started and working with my hands and doing things, and I would change them because I wouldn't put them together the way they were designed. Rules? I mean, kind of rules. I'd put the big fat tires on the front instead of the back. I did some crazy stuff. I'd heat up the plastic and bend them together to make it look like it was in an accident. I just, these were my plastic models. It was fun.
Yeah. Typical entrepreneur trying to make things better.
Different, at least.
Yeah, at least.
Mine, personalized.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And so I did that. And then in high school, I did kind of full on go with a kind of yard maintenance business. I hijacked my stepfather's riding mower and tools, and I would go and do jobs. I'd cut school and do jobs. I'd go and make $200 in a day in 1979, 80.
It's not bad.
Yeah. And I thought, man, I'm doing pretty good, but this is hard work. It's hot and bugs bite. And it's like, well, I found out that, I could get $20 to clear the gutters out of a house in 20 minutes, $1 a minute in 1980.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, I'm just the gutter guy now. And so I had everybody that signed up with me. I said, well, you're going to need this again because the leaves are going to fall and they're not leaving your house. And so don't you want me to come back in 8 weeks? I'm like, oh yeah. Okay. So I was full up. I did that for a while, and I found a West German product called Vorwerk, Vorwerk. It was a carpet dry cleaning system.
Uh-huh.
instead of steam. And the entire system fit into a large suitcase.
Mhm.
And I said, well, the buddy of mine, he was trying to get me to sell them door to door. Well, I tried that for like a minute.
Right.
And the people they're expensive. They were like $900 for a vacuum / rug cleaner in 1981 and or two. And I was like, well, I couldn't sell these damn things, but people wanted me. So how much to clean my carpet? Well, oh, ding. I just took my system and I started my own. Then I bought another system so I could actually use two and one in each hand and clean these carpets and make some money. I was making more money than my mother, who was an RN with a degree running the state. Now get this, back in the day, it was called the South Carolina Department of Mental Retardation.
Oh, geez.
There's your timeline.
Can't use that term anymore.
No. And so it was amazing that I never wanted to work for anyone else. I tried a couple of waiting tables job. I worked at an open air market. And it's not that I didn't enjoy taking orders, which I didn't, but I just thought that some of the things that they were asking me to do were kind of stupid and a waste of time. Like, well, why don't you do it like this? And I didn't get any love for that. So I'm like, well,
it's the way we always did it. This is the way we've always done it.
Yeah. So somewhere in there at around 18 years old, I discovered ballroom, Latin, swing, all the social dances. And I got really serious, really quick with ballroom dancing. I thought, young guy, not especially rich. I don't have a super nice car and a big cigarette boat. I better have I'll bring something to the game. So I thought, dancing, attention from girls. Hey, this is a good thing. Yeah. So I learned as much as I could. I went to a Fred Astaire dance studio who's going to put me through a program to be a dance instructor. And of course they said, oh, you're going to travel the world and make millions of dollars just dancing and having fun. Well, I loved the dancing, hated the business.
Right.
The business model was like, oh man. So I went through the training and I said to myself, and to anyone who would listen, when I have my own studio, I'm going to do like this and I'm going to do like that. I want classes for the masses. I'm not going to have contracts. I'm not going to take advantage of grandma and take her life savings and talk her into, spending tens of thousands of dollars one time for dance lessons. Not for me. And everybody laughed until I opened my studio. And then they said, well, it won't last a year. And I opened my studio in 1993, Atlanta, Georgia. I'd moved from Columbia, South Carolina to Atlanta, Georgia in 87. And in 93, I opened my studio. Before that, I did the carpet cleaning thing.
Yeah.
And waiting tables sometimes at night, carpet cleaning during the day. I was raking it in and putting it away, saving for a rainy day. And that's when I opened my studio and started teaching my way. And it was classes for the masses. And Atlanta was populous and still is, and more so now.
Sure.
Was my mecca. City Lights Dance Club.
Uh-huh.
And it became the largest student body in the Southeast USA. I had 6,000 plus students, which was more than every single studio in Atlanta, other studio combined.
Wow.
Huge hit. People still talk about it today. I retired from there in 2002.
What did you do there that was different?
Well, no contracts, classes for the masses. And then I had what I think is probably one of the best ideas. I had this program because not everybody could afford the classes, even though they were cheap, like $10, $12 a class. There were some people who were typically younger students,
sure,
college age or even less. And they were interested in the dancing, but they couldn't afford, 4 classes at $36 a piece
right,
a week for the lessons. And I say, well, I tell you what, if you go to the classes that I need you to go to, you can go for free. So I had guys and girls. And when I had a class that had more men than women in it that's paid, I would throw my little trainees in there.
Uh-huh.
And then if I had more girls, then I'd throw the guys in there. And I always had classes that were equal number men and women. That was the key, because people enjoy that. When in most of the cases, in almost every other studios, 75, 80% women, and they were typically very mature women.
Mm-hmm.
And my prices, my theme, the classes for the masses attracted people of all ages, including the younger people who were missing in all of the other clubs. Second best thing I did there was I created what's called the tenderfoot ball. Now, have you ever been a Boy Scout?
No, I have not, actually.
Tenderfoot is the first ranking of a Boy Scout.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, well, I'm going to have the tenderfoot ball for beginners only.
Oh,
That was the biggest hit, because the for beginners only took out all of the anxiety people have about going to a dance, because they don't want to be the only person out there who doesn't know how to dance. And I would teach like two short dances. And then I'd play that music that matched those dances. Then I'd add another class for a third dance. And then I'd add that to the music mix. And I just loved it. It turned out to be a huge hit, because it drew so many people into the club. And the guys who became proficient at dance would keep going back to this beginner ball.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to see, well, what new girls are coming out here, right? You know, they're wise. They know, hey, let's see what new girls are coming out. And when they know 2 or 3 steps more than the brand new girls, well, they look like, wow, you're a really good dancer. Boom, his head will explode. It was brilliant. And I made a lot of money. Fell out of love with Atlanta.
Was that right?
Yeah. And it changed after the Olympics in '96. We got like 1 million people overnight that moved to Atlanta, and the population exploded, and pollution exploded. And it wasn't the right 1 million people. It was a bunch of freeloading people, for all I know. It just changed the dynamic of Atlanta altogether.
Yeah. It's amazing that I did take ballroom dancing. I went to I think 1 or 2 of those free classes where, you're right. They bring you in for the free class, or maybe it was inexpensive. I can't remember.
Right.
But then they want you to sign up for, a year long or 2 year long.
Right.
And I wasn't that into it. I did it because I think my girlfriend at the time wanted to do it. And so I did it to appease her, but I wasn't all that into it. But I mean, it's interesting, but I wasn't about to sign up for a year or 2, or,
And that's where that business model was just pervasive. It was everywhere in the dance business all over the nation. And I was one of the very, very first to change that and do classes for the masses, pay as you go, no contracts. And it was a huge success. He had those that said that I wouldn't last a year. And then they said, oh, you won't last 2 years. Well, you won't last 5 years. But after that, they started, well, maybe we should try to copy what he's doing, because he's going gangbusters. So
yeah,
I was pretty proud of that. One of the most rewarding times of my life. The number of friends that I met, I missed all of you. I hope you guys are listening. I'm going to share this with my Facebook group.
Yeah, I think, when you build a business around something that you're passionate about or that you love doing,
Yes.
I think that it becomes less about business and more about sort of fun, with business as an aside to keep it going.
Right. And, it's been said many ways and times by many different people that if you do what you enjoy for a living, you never work a day in your life. And I remember countless number of times in my classes, in my parties, saying, man, I would do this for free if it wasn't for you guys paying me so much. So thanks. And now that I'm retired and I do something completely different, sort of, I do teach for free. I've taught many a time around here. Not a regular thing, but every once in a while I get a chance to teach, and I do it because I love it. I love the teaching. It's sharing what I love. Just like teaching sailing. I love sailing. Teaching, you do because you love it.
Yeah.
And, I was one of the lucky ones that I ended up getting paid well to be a teacher of dance. And that's not always sometimes dancers have a wonderful creative mind, lovely dancers, but they have absolutely no business acumen whatsoever.
Yeah.
And they just, think they're going to open up a studio and everyone's going to beat their door down. And it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think that's true with any business. I think that somebody gets, even in restaurants, I think somebody learns how to cook and they think they can run a restaurant. Somebody
Yeah.
learns how to work on a car and they think they can open an auto body shop. I think you have to have a little bit of business acumen. But I think more than business acumen, I think you have to understand how to market and have to understand who your customer is and what they want. We talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, and the one thing that comes out, the successful ones are people that understand where the flaw is from a consumer perspective.
Right.
How am I going to get people to use my service? Because, you could have the greatest thing in the world, but if nobody's using it, then it's not worth
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
Exactly. I think too, probably one of my reoccurring advice, the best advice I could give somebody is it's not a matter of if you're the best cook in the world,
Right.
you're a chef, you know what you're really doing, but what you really inside want to do is travel the world. You probably shouldn't open a restaurant.
Right. The hours will kill you.
That's just, it doesn't go. You're not going to be happy. And you're not going to focus on your business because you're going to be splitting your time trying to do that world traveler thing, and you're not at your restaurant.
Yeah.
I mean, that you could throw a scenario in there about any kind of business there, but you need to pick what kind of lifestyle you want to live, and then choose your business, your career, your entrepreneurial path according to that. That's the most important thing, because you want to be able to live the life you want, which is much more rewarding sometimes than just making a lot of money.
That's funny because last week we had on Phil DeMuro, who was a young guy who started out building an app. The app was called Loople. And one of the things that it didn't work out, but he wound up transitioning and pivoting his company. Now they develop apps, they develop websites, they do all that. But the thing that he focused on was exactly what you were saying. And I think there's a lot of guys out there that I know that are entrepreneurs that set up businesses that did it as a lifestyle business. They feel like, I can build this business, but I can do it in a way that rewards me with how I want to live my life, because his business, building apps, building websites, he can do from anywhere in the world. He doesn't have to sit in an office to do it.
I think people are starting to realize that more now than they were a decade ago.
Oh, I agree. I agree with you.
I have a friend, Julie, who got into in her 40s, she got into doing hair removal, and she opened up her own place. She keeps going to different training, so she builds on that, and she just expanded her business with this laser machine that's like $250,000 or whatever. I mean, we're talking about a major investment,
sure,
a commitment, and so she is dedicated for it. But she has really worked real hard to get that business to where it is. So I wish her all the luck, Julie. If you're watching, you're the best. But yeah, you have to be able to move, and the Julie story is about being able to turn. Don't say, well, I'm 40 years old, I can't do something new. I mean, 40, I'm 58, I'm doing something brand new right now. That's entrepreneurial, but it's not for money. I'm starting I'm spearheading a movement to start a cooperative farmers market, a brick and mortar 7-day-a-week store here in Panacea, where I live, which is a beautiful natural place in Florida, but it is a food desert. Right. I got to go 20 miles to get a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
So that's my mission, and I'm gaining some ground, and I'm using a lot of the techniques, the showmanship, if you will, the promotional stuff that I used in my dance business, to garner the kind of help that I need from volunteers, people like I did from my dance business. I'm drawing them in with that same, Mr. City Lights panache, if you will. And I'm getting some traction there. And I think I've only had one meeting so far, and I've got a lot of folks who are just ready to just volunteer to do research, and there's grants available, and there's places that need to be inspected. And I can't do it all myself. And I'm not doing it for money. I'm doing it to give back, and because it's something I enjoy.
Yeah.
You know?
Let's take a quick break. And when we get back, I want to talk about Expandacraft and then your other ventures. So just give me 2 minutes and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Amy Joy, and I'm the host of Get Your Together Live with Amy Joy. And you can catch me every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific on the amazing Trajectory channel right here on E360 TV.
I'm a hot sauce lover, and one of our sponsors tonight is a company called Dave's Gourmet, which has been in the hot sauce business for about 30 years. They created actually the super hot category with Insanity sauce, which you may have heard, but really fantastic sauces. And one of the innovations that they've come up with are these creamy hot sauces, which are more than just a plain hot sauce. And they have more applications. They can be a dip, they can be a dressing, they can be all kinds of things. So really a great product. I don't take endorsements from people that I don't use their product, or companies I don't use their product, but Dave's was one that we love, and we talked about it on the last show, Phil and I, and it's just it's a fantastic product. And they also make pasta sauces, they make olive oil. So it's Dave's Gourmet. They have a website, davesgourmet.com. They're in I think every major supermarket, and they're sold on Amazon. So check them out when you get a chance. So, Wes,
yes,
we're back.
You got me wanting some hot sauce now.
Yeah. Let's it's actually a great product. I mean, I use it all the time. They have so many different ones. I am a hot sauce lover.
Me too.
And I think their products are fantastic. But they, like I said, they also make pasta sauces, olive oils. They have some seasonings and things like that. Really a good.
And of course, they started up their business and instantly was a success overnight, right?
30 years of overnight success.
Yes.
And they're still struggling.
This entrepreneur thing is not for impatient people with thin skin. You got to be able to take criticism when somebody says your product is horrible.
Yeah. Well, everybody thinks that once you pass a certain timeline, I think that they view it as a success. But even if you're building a business like that, businesses always require capital. You've got to figure all that out. Growth comes with the need for more capital, especially if you're in a business where you're selling a product to retail, because every time that you get another purchase order, you've got to buy the ingredients, the packaging, and then you've got to ship it to them, and then you get paid 30 to 45 days later. So it's a tricky business. Yeah.
You got me thinking about a story. I'm going to go back real quick to my dance business. When I started my dance business in 93, it was starting up in 92. You say it takes money to make money, and not really sometimes. Well, I sold because I was teaching dancing off premises. I didn't have a studio of my own. I was teaching at other places. I'd rent a place. And I built my clientele. And what I did is, hey guys, I found a place I want to rent. And I sold packages of lessons. It was all to be done in 1 year. I didn't do contracts. These are the only packages, the only kind of contract, if you will. It was pre-sold services. And I had this idea that I would just sell a few of these, get enough money to put the down payments and things of the sort. In 1992, I raised $18,000 in 18 days.
Wow.
Yeah, which was enough just barely to scratch open the doors. And it was like, boom, gangbusters. A year went by, I fulfilled every obligation, but nobody, they all wanted, it's like, hey, I'm used to this thing. And I created what I call the gold membership.
Yeah.
And it was, let's just say it was $100 a month, and they could come to all the classes, all the parties. And I only sold enough to cover my nut, meaning pay my bill for power, just exist.
Sure.
So I knew at least I had enough money coming in every month to cover the nut, and everything else was gravy. Probably the most brilliant idea I ever came up with in business. One of the most amazing things. But I had the trust of people because I earned it.
Yeah.
Not because I just was a good salesman.
Yeah.
Maybe I am a good salesman. I don't.
So why don't you tell us about Expandacraft and what you're doing?
Expandacraft came about when I was just building a toy for myself, and a boat, because I'm big into sailing, and I was going to build something for myself. And I had this articulated system that allowed one hull to go up and one hull to go down, and it became something else. I thought, oh, wow, this has more implication than just a toy. So I pitched it to the military, which is a whole hour show, how this came about.
Right.
And I ended up at the Air Force Base, not too far, Pensacola, in between Northrop Grumman and some other big company. And these guys, they're $10,000 Armani suits or whatever. And I'm in khakis and a pullover shirt. And these guys walked up and they're like, what is this? And they only had the model, but I had a 24-foot boat that I built and tested. And I said, well, this is an articulated system to help shock mitigation at high speed and to help stabilize a platform at any speed, especially quartering the waves, yada, yada. I'm like, this is brilliant. They took me out of the show, took me on the base. Loved the idea, only wondered, well, how big can we scale it up? Next thing you know, I'm funded. Yeah, because they put me the backside a little bit on, I was going to be the money they were going to spend on a tender for a large ship that was already scheduled. But in 2008, we had a change of guard, and the new president killed the budget. And then I went back to the drawing board and went from a military, shock mitigation vehicle to a water toy again. And that's where it all began. Expandacraft is just a small modular boat. It goes together like Lego. I wish I had the name. If I had a nickel for every time somebody called it the Lego boat, I have a big bag of nickels, I tell you that. And but it's it clicks together. And I've been doing this almost 14 years. But when COVID came around, oh my. Anybody who was lucky enough to be in the water sports or outdoor sporting equipment business, bicycles, roller skates, backyard pools, anything that was outside and recreational, it went boom. And mine was no exception. It was doing well. But when COVID came, COVID bought me a house.
So who's the customer for this? Is it sailors? Is it just boating people, or is it just people who don't know how to boat that are recreational?
Well, not exclusively, but it's fishermen and men of a certain age who don't want to flip over in a kayak, because mine are much, much more stable in a kayak. And you can use my skinny little hulls as outriggers on a kayak or canoe. And that's been the biggest seller, is the outrigger kit. Even though my modular boats will become its own boat in itself without a kayak or canoe in the middle, that's the biggest seller, because you can then put more stuff on it. It's not going to flip over. And if you swamp your canoe, you're not going down. You're not going to flip over. And if you're in 50-degree water, that's a big deal.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The law of 50 is you have a 50-50 chance of surviving 50-yard swim in 50-degree water.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. That's the law. So I sell a lot of them out west where it's really cold water. And Florida, of course, we're 24/7, 365 water weather.
Yeah.
but I sell them all over the world. I have them on every continent in the world except Antarctica. And oddly enough, I just got my certification, the R7345B, whatever certification, to sell to the DOD.
Oh, is that right?
For the U.S. Navy. Yeah. And after all these years, hey, I finally, like, maybe you guys should have listened to me first time 14 years ago.
So how do you sell all around the world? Are you using a dealer network, or are you?
I do. I have a shipper, but the international sales, I leave it up to the individuals to do it. It does make it more difficult, but the liability that it could kick back, and they charge me a whole bunch more money to ship after I've already shipped it. And I got burned on that one time. I had to learn that lesson, which is another lesson you should learn, is you don't make money every single time in business on a deal. You take losses, and you can't let those losses be, a failure. It's not a failure. It's just business. Sometimes you lose money on a deal. As long as in the end, your business line is going up, there's always a dip. There's always a dip. And sometimes the dip is because you were a dip and you let a package go with an orange boat in it that was supposed to be blue, and they refuse it and turn it back. Now you got to pay for shipping both ways for no sale. You got to eat it. You just got to have a tough skin. You can't give up. You can't let people, that say negative things stop you. You can't let those people say, "Oh, that'll never work." They don't listen to those people. When they say, "I'm just playing devil's advocate." Look, I don't want to listen to the devil or any of his advocates. Yeah. So hold that thought. And just because you preface a statement with don't take this personally, but you're ugly, fat, and you smell bad.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's still personal. Don't listen to those people.
Yeah. Well, I've been in e-commerce a long time, and I understand. I mean, we've, there's packages that go out that are broken. There's packages out that get refused. There's packages out that weren't ever delivered, and you have to minimize it, but you have to learn from it. You always go back to the process and say, well, what can we do, to fix the process to make sure that this doesn't happen. But you're right. I mean, sometimes you lose money on a deal whether it's because of a bad process, because of a mistake you made, it could be a million reasons, but you're right.
I've had to eat product that my manufacturer screwed up. They shot the part underweight and it leaks, and I'm like, oh man, I shipped that thing to the farthest ends of the earth. Now I got to ship them another one. And you have to not see it as a failure. It's just business.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's just business. And, we always stop and take a look back and say, what happened and why. My first e-commerce business was back in the late 90s when shipping, e-commerce was fairly new. I mean, Amazon was out there shipping books and CDs, and there were some other people, but we started in the food business, shipping frozen food, and, UPS, FedEx, USPS, none of that was built out the way it is today. So it was challenging to ship product.
Right.
We had to learn and look at how, people like Omaha Steaks, who have been shipping food for years, were doing it,
right,
and how they were getting. But I think for the first year, I don't think we covered our shipping costs because we didn't realize how expensive things were, and we weren't pricing things correctly. But we took a step back and we learned from it and continued on. Made improvements, and then
shipping has been the biggest nightmare and is still the biggest issue in my Expandacraft business, because every single kit, every single individual boat, all of the different, it's a la carte, pick and choose.
Yeah.
And I'll have somebody contact me through email, and they'll say, "How much are your boats shipped?"
Yeah.
What size boat, which kind of boat, and shipped to where?
Yeah.
And then I get another email. to this area code. I'm like, okay, but you didn't answer my question. What type of boat? How, you got to be specific. So finally, talking about learning, is I now on my website, I have this thing they have to fill out. Put your name here, fill this box, fill this. What are you looking for? What color? Where do you live? I need a full address, not just a zip code.
Sure.
But I mean, it's maddening. There was this one sale. This guy had 79 emails back and forth.
Jeez.
This is for like $1,000 sale. And asking for shipping quotes. Well, what if I had, and then, well, what if I changed my order to, and back, and then I stopped and I said, you know what? I think you're just messing with me. You were sent here by my competition or somebody to just waste my time. I'm just not going to reply to you anymore. And he finally replied to, oh, no, it's not. He did end up buying it, but 78 emails. I finally had to say, I'm just going to have to turn you away. You're wasting more time than it's worth to sell this boat.
Yeah. It's today, in today's e-commerce environment, and again, you're shipping, you're selling, you've got a website. I consider that e-commerce. In today's e-commerce environment, and even Amazon will tell you that the number one obstacle is shipping. Customers don't want to pay for shipping. So they'd rather, and I tell this to people all the time, and believe me, it's been studied, and I can tell you this with the truth. Customers would rather pay $30 for a product with free shipping than they would $25 with $3 of shipping cost.
Yeah.
And
the problem with mine is the sizes of
sure
and volume of the boxes is so different that I just can't do it.
No,
so I have a new business that does my shipping, so I can go to a website and I can click it all in there. It's been pretty good, but I was losing a lot. I mean, I'm talking 75% of my sales were going down the tubes because of the cost of shipping, just, when diesel shot up. But it wasn't until I got a special deal because of the volume that I ship, that my prices for shipping went down enough that people are buying again. I'm not losing because of shipping. So if you're doing anything with shipping, you got to worry about that. I'm going to get back. I'm circling back here a little bit about not being thin-skinned and not listening to those naysayers and devil's advocates.
Yeah.
Goodness sakes. Is online. I have this like a 16-foot canoe with 16-foot outriggers and all of this stuff that you can go through skinny little water, and you can take it all apart in a few minutes and throw it on the roof rack of your truck or the bed of a truck or even a small SUV. And it serves its purpose, but it's not for everyone. But somebody will say something like, why don't you just buy a real boat? Oh my God, I used to go off on them. You don't understand. My product is not made for people who want a pontoon boat or but I don't get upset about it because now I've got such a Expandacraft family following my posts and things that I just sit back.
Yeah.
Somebody says, why don't you get a real boat? And then all of my Expandacraft fans go in and attack this person.
Yeah.
So I have my own little army. I don't have to say anything. They defend me. They say, well, I don't need a boat for this and that reason. So again, you can't be thin-skinned. You can't let that get to you. And at the front, I kind of got a little offended. Like, well, you don't understand my product. And I would try to explain it to them. And now I don't.
Yeah, it's social media is a interesting. It's an interesting medium for businesses because it's not good. It's not good for the business to argue, right, with the people.
Exactly.
You can't do it. You got to keep your decorum. But in a lot of cases, what I find is you can sort of learn a little bit from those posts. There's a lot of people out there that are a bit angry and they like to just, they're just naysayers. They're just naturally naysayers. No matter what you do, they're going to find a problem with your product or service or whatever. They're just going to say something nasty. And, you got to ignore those people. But sometimes consumers use social media as a customer service tool. So
Right.
sometimes they will start posting things. And if you pay attention, sometimes you can find, ways to improve your product or ways to improve your service or ways to improve your business,
Mhm.
because what they're saying may be valid. They may be upset because of something that happened. Maybe they didn't get the product on time. Maybe they, it got lost or whatever. But, if you can get past all that, and like you said, be a little bit thick skinned, not take it personally,
Right.
and just pay attention to what they're saying, you can learn a lot from it. But I agree with you. There are some people on social media that just, they're just
Yeah, you
naysayers.
can't please them.
No.
I tell you, YouTube made my business, and it really is with me. When I make videos, I make sales.
Yeah.
Had I known this 14 years ago, there would have been a lot of things that I would have not done, and I would have just made videos, and I would have put the money that I spent on other things that didn't work out, not failures,
Yeah.
pursuits that didn't pan out. I'd have bought the most expensive, beautiful camera. I would have taught myself more about how to edit, or I would have hired somebody who already knows how to do it, which is what I typically do anymore.
Yeah.
Like I've always wanted to learn to weld, but I hired this guy whose welding looks like art, and he's
Yeah.
reasonable price. I mean, wow, he spent his whole life to do this.
Yeah.
I'm just going to hire this guy.
Yeah.
I'm not going to learn to weld, not at my age especially, and so I just let him do the welding, and I just keep selling boats.
Yeah. Well, I have an agency, and we handle marketing and advertising for brands. That's our core business. And,
Mhm.
we'll have people that say, I want to spend, or brands that'll say, I want to run ads. I want to run ads here and there. And a lot of times we'll say, you're not going to get the biggest bang for your buck by doing that, because it's just not going to give you the return. We're honest with them. We don't want to just take their money. And, but a lot of times ads just don't break through the clutter like a video does.
Yes.
And we're seeing it more and more because we've transitioned. We used to do specifically Amazon and e-commerce businesses and running ads and Google and social and on Amazon. But now we do a lot more. And I've hired a bunch of young people who do know video and video editing. So we do a lot more social work with advertising through video, whether it's YouTube or whether it's Instagram Reels or TikTok videos or whatever. And we've sort of figured out in a lot of ways how to take a brand's message and create video content around it that actually penetrates and gets somebody to respond. You may not always get the sale, like, I don't know if you're familiar with Duolingo. Duolingo is a language app. You can put it on your phone and you can learn another language. And they do a tremendous amount of video content, not ads, just video content on TikTok with their mascot. And, everybody points to them and says, look at what a great job they're doing. And I say, yeah, it's great. And they do a great job. And the purpose of what they're doing isn't so much to get you to get the app today, but when you're ready, they've done such a good job that Duolingo has become almost, the language for when I want to learn a new language. I'm going to get a Duolingo app. So
nice. Yeah, you have to learn. And like I said, YouTube made my business. Well, I'm also learning more about YouTube because almost everything I have is just point and shoot cell phone camera.
Yeah.
One shot, one take, 5, 7, 8 minutes. But I've been watching this one guy. He did the backyard squirrel mazes.
Yeah.
Like millions of hits. And then he did the next one and he had 10 million hits. And now I've learned from this guy and others how to not only monetize by, if you click on this button, you get so many, like a half a cent per click or something, but he's done this other thing, master classes.
Yeah.
And so you actually pay him $5 to be a part of that master class. And he only has so many spots available because he can only communicate to so many people on live chat. But he also has a product line for children's science kits. So he has a physical thing that he can mail you.
Sure.
And he has now grown to a physical place you can send your children I can't remember where it is, and a camp, like a science camp.
Yeah.
This guy has really done it right. And I'm going to emulate some of that by incorporating how-to videos. I'm going to teach people how to make a wood rudder, for instance. That's one of the things that I have. Hey, you don't have to buy it from me. Buy it from me, it's $350. But here's how you can make it yourself with this, that, and the other tool. And you do this and you do that. And so I think I can get people to come in that way. And then when they try and fail, they'll just buy my kit.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people will. I think a lot of people would be interested in learning about, how a rudder works and all that, but maybe they don't want to build it themselves. There's
Exactly.
a lot of guys out there, and we watch a lot of video because I agree with you. You can learn something from them about how people are approaching video. And I think it's interesting that, they're building a community, they're talking about their product, and then, there's there's guys out there that are doing welding, that have welding videos. I think it's interesting. I watch them. They explain the whole process, but I'm never going to be a welder. I'm never going to weld anything. I just don't have that gene, but I like watching them and I like learning about it. And I'm sure that, the same thing there.
Right. Well, you hit on something there when you said guys this and guys that, guys. And most of my clients are guys. However, I have a very female-friendly product. It's a kayak size, a 12-foot, basically like a sit-on-top kayak that a little woman can break down, throw in the back of a Prius, and drive away in less time than it takes a dude to put a kayak on his roof rack.
Yeah.
But I can't reach a female market. I just don't know. They're not on YouTube, I guess, or maybe I just don't.
They're on YouTube. I think, you have to figure out, that out. It's really, I would think the outdoor exercising or outdoor enjoyment market. And maybe, it's like this, because maybe you might find this interesting. We were in the razor business a long time ago, shaving. Had a business that, we sold razors for men and women. Yeah.
You shave for your show.
And we were one of the bigger ones that were out there online. And what we found was that when we looked at, the stats of who was buying the product, right? And again, we're selling men's razors primarily, women's razors as well, but we had predominantly a female purchase. And what we learned from that was that women make a lot of the decisions. The husband may say, I'm out of razors and
Honey, find me a razor.
razors, and she'll go out and she'll buy them for him, right? So you may have the opposite where, it's like bicycles, right? Guys buy the most outdoor bicycles, but women are still a significant riding population. But maybe the guy has bought it for her, her husband has bought it for her as a gift, or the husband, she said, what kind of bike should I buy? And the husband, sort of measures her and does all that because maybe he knows. It may be the same sort of dynamic where you actually have a female audience, but it may be being funneled through, a male dominated audience. I don't know, but there's ways to reach women on YouTube. Absolutely. But I think you have to sort of focus it on who your target is with those videos.
Well, I've also just kind of said, okay, I'm going to put it out there and whoever's watching gets it. When I do get a female client, they typically buy the 12-foot sit on top version, but the guys, they buy the outrigger kits, the big kahuna. They want everything in a bag of chips. And so that's nice.
Yeah, I'm sure they're probably going fishing and going to be out there for a while. So,
well, one of the more popular kits lately has been a one-sided outrigger kit with decking on the side, because for some reason, guys with these kayaks that have the pedals, especially in Texas and Florida, want to fish 8, 9, 10, 12 miles offshore.
Wow.
And they turn around at the end of the day and meet a 3-knot current and a 10-mile-an-hour headwind and realize, I can't get home.
Oh, geez.
Or they get out there with their $7,500 kayak, yes, that much, and $10,000 worth of fishing gear, flip it and lose, valuable gear. and then they're upside down in the Gulf of Mexico or wherever.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they get one of my outriggers, put a little 2-horse motor on it, out, they get their fish, they come back. It's one of the huge, big sellers.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. It's an interesting business. I'm not a boating person. My son is a competitive sailor, and he loves being out on the water. But I'm not I've kayaked before. I like it, but I'm certainly not going that many miles off. But I have in my many years ago I used to do triathlons, so I do understand what you mean about swimming 50 yards in 50-degree water. And because I've been in some cold water, and when you stick your face in that water, it actually stops you from breathing. It's really difficult to get used to doing that stuff.
You don't have, skin suit or wetsuit or something like that. You're in peril. You're in, especially if it was a big shark that turned you over.
Yeah, that's never happened to me.
Yeah.
It's only been lakes and some ocean swims, but nothing.
One of my clients has a great story about rescuing these 2 ladies offshore that were turned over by a shark with one of my Expandacraft boats. So I just wish he had that on a video. I could probably sell a lot of boats through that. But getting back to the subject, I kind of wanted to let people know that, this has been 14 years now, and I've been profitable. But the first several years were tough. I mean, sometimes I was, and sometimes I wasn't. I was always able to pay my bills, but it was rough, and it started getting good. And then, when COVID came along, it got tremendous. And I don't know how much I have to say, because of COVID, of the success of my business. But the thing is you have to hang on.
Yeah.
If you're going to do this and you want to do this. And I enjoy my boats. I don't particularly enjoy boxing up parts and shipping problems, but I enjoy the fact that my product is overwhelmingly enjoyed by my people. It's like a cult.
Yeah.
They're really, I could say the same thing about people who own Hobie kayaks and Hobie sailboats.
Yeah.
It's their brand. Well, I have my brand loyalty group.
Yeah.
And it's flattering. And when somebody calls up and I actually answer my phone and they're, is this actually the man in the hat? I don't have my hat. Most people wouldn't recognize me without my hat. Mr. Expandacraft has this silly hat that I wear. Well, it's not silly. It's a functional hat. But yeah, it's flattering. And it's a good part. It's a good feeling when you're an entrepreneur and your product or your service is appreciated like that. Then, this is why I've done this for 14 years.
Yeah, I think when you build a community in any kind of business, when you build a community and that community sort of responds and starts, helping, it's that's when you made it. But like you said, 14 years. If you're doing something and you believe in it and you're making a profit, even if it's not the greatest profit in the world, and you just have to keep going. I mean, you have to persevere, because if not, you'll always regret it.
Yeah. And it's always good to listen to advice, and you can take it with a grain of salt. Again, don't listen to the naysayers and the devil's advocates, but they'll never have anything positive to say. So,
Yeah.
Just be attentive. Like I was saying, how I study other people's YouTube videos. There's this one guy who will test anything from pencil sharpeners to the best ratcheting wrench to flashlights and what have you.
Yeah. I love those guys.
Yeah. And he's kind of bland and kind of talks, and he doesn't move at all when he's speaking, but he has got the most scientifically proven methods of saying which is the best pencil sharpener there is in the market right now, that it's so damn interesting that I'll sit there and watch for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I look at his hits and he's like way up there. So he's making bank.
Yeah.
And then I listen to History Guys, one of my favorite YouTubers. And I was so happy to hear he's got one where he says that he quit his job and he's full-time YouTubing it with The History Guy. If you haven't seen The History Guy, you got to look him up. He's very entertaining. Got his little bow tie and his cat walks behind his head sometimes. But it was so touching to see that he had reached a point in his YouTube channel that he could retire. He could quit his job and just do the History Guy YouTube channel for his business. How rewarding, how wonderful.
Yeah. Hey, Wesley, we've got about 2 more minutes. So any parting words for budding entrepreneurs?
Hey, don't take too much personal. Get a thick skin and don't listen to those naysayers. If you've got an idea and you've got it burning in your heart, go for it, especially if you're young and, you've got a long time to recover from any mistakes you might make. Just do it.
Yeah. Well, I always say you can do it at any age because we have a lot of folks that are, in their 40s and want to make
that. And do it. You can do an about face at 40.
Sure.
Quit your job and start a hot dog stand.
If that's what you're passionate about.
I know.
Well, thanks for being on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Phil. It's been a pleasure sharing stories.
Yeah, great. Hey, thanks a lot. I'm going to end this a little bit. And, again, thanks a lot. And, I wish you luck with Expandacraft.
Thank you.
Yeah, folks, we're going to wrap this one up. Next week, we've got a great story coming from a guy named Adam McDonald, where we're going to learn a little bit more about marketing your product. And that's what he's done as far as, in videos, direct response television and places like that. So it's been a pleasure. And, thanks for watching.